So good afternoon, students. Today we'll talk about displacement current. What is the meaning of this term displacement current? What are the characteristics of that, and why it is so important in electrodynamics? In the previous lecture, we have discussed on Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction, and according to that law, whenever magnetic flux linked with a circuit is changing, an EMF is induced in that circuit, and that induced EMF and hence the induced current lasts only when the magnetic flux is changing, and that is given by the Newman's law. So, according to Newman's law, you observe that when there is no rate of change of magnetic flux with time, that means with time, if magnetic flux doesn't change, then EMF induced is zero. There will not be any EMF induced in that case. On the other hand, the rate of change of induced EMF, rate of change of magnetic flux gives you the amount of EMF. That means more the rate of change of flux, faster the change of flux, more will be the induced EMF you get. And if the circuit is closed, more amount of current will be flown through that circuit. So the EMF doesn't depend on the flask itself. It actually depends on how the flask is changing with time. And the direction of induced EMF or current is found out from the Lenz law, which tells that the direction will be in such a way that it will oppose the cause that produced it in accordance to conservation of energy. So if we write it in integral form or differential form, then the basic thing we understand from Faraday's law is that when magnetic field is changed with time, then electric field is obtained. That means if we somehow change the magnetic field with time, then the rate of change of magnetic field can produce electric field. So in the previous introductory class, I told you that though people understood that electric field and magnetic field are somehow related, there was no basic connection between these two unless Faraday came. So by the Faraday's law, now it is established that electric field and magnetic field are interrelated. Rate of change of magnetic field can produce electric field. So it is not that electric field can be produced by a single charge or a number of charges present at a place. But if magnetic field is changed with time, then electric field can also be produced. That was given by Faraday's law. Now, is it possible that the reverse is also true? That means here we are saying rate of change of magnetic field produces electric field. Is it possible that rate of change of electric field can produce magnetic field? We know magnetic field can be observed when magnetic poles are present. Later on, it was observed that when current flows through a circuit, then that current can produce magnetic field also. So, a current carrying conductor can also produce magnetic field. But is it possible that if electric field is varied, if I can vary electric field with time, then magnetic field can be produced? Is it possible? There is reverse condition. Rate of change of electric field can produce magnetic field. Is it possible? Before we check it, let's revisit Ampere circular law. Studied Ampere circular law in your class 12 standard, and if we remember it, it tells that the line integral of magnetic field, so if we have a Ampere loop here, this is an Ampere loop, the line integral of the magnetic field around any closed loop is equal to the product of free space permeability and net current bounded by that curve. That means closed integral B dot dl equals to mu naught I. So in simple words, if there is some current, say this is I1 amount of current here, this is I2 amount of current, I3 amount of current, etc. in a region, and I am drawing a ampere loop here, a loop which bounds these currents. Then the line integral, that means if I take a small length, say dl here, and find the b dot dl at each point. Find the b dot dl at each point and just summarize it. That means close integral b dot dl, that will be equal to mu naught times the total current. Here, what is the total current? I1 plus I2 plus I3. These are the total current. So total current here is I1 plus I2 plus I3. Then close integral b dot dl will be mu naught times the total current. So total current I1 plus I2 plus I3. If the current directions are different, suppose one is going upward direction, other two are going in downward direction, then it will be mu naught I1 minus I2 minus I3. See? So the point is the close integral b dot dl must be equal to mu naught times the net current bounded by that curve. Net current bounded by the curve. That means if I draw another current here, say it is I4 going in opposite direction, then I should write I4 like this. So net current will be I1 plus I2 plus I3 minus I4 in this case. So the point that was mentioned in Ampere's circular law, that the line integral of magnetic field around any closed loop is equal to the product of free space permittivity and net current bounded by the curve. And by that way, you can estimate the magnetic field. Now here, what I want to rewrite this Ampere's circular law in its complete integral form and differential form. Now, you observe in the Ampere's circular law, it is written in this way: the left hand side is in integral form and right hand side is only mu naught times the total current I. Now, we want to write down the right hand side also in the form of integration. How can I do that? Before that, I told you that better if we write current density, and current density is written in terms of J as total current per unit area when the current is measured in a direction perpendicular to the area. That means suppose this is the wire through which current is flowing, this is the direction of current, then the area must be held perpendicular to the direction of current. So if this is the area A and this is the amount of current passing perpendicular to that area, then current density is current per unit area. That means its unit is ampere per meter square. So that's how current density is measured. In other words, current equals to current density into area. The point is, first of all, current density is a vector quantity, it's not a scalar. Area, we know, is also a vector quantity. Moreover, whenever we are writing current density, then we should always remember that current density is measured in such a way that current is perpendicular to the area. Here, whenever we are measuring current density, the current should always go perpendicular to the area. Now, suppose this is the current density, this is the direction of current density, and the area you are placing is slightly tilted like this. Think of the practical situation. You cannot always make it perpendicular. So instead of this is the actual perpendicular thing, but now angle is this. So slight angle is there. That means current is not the perpendicular direction of the area. So in other words, now a certain amount of this current is in the certain amount of current will be in this direction. This is the direction perpendicular. So certain amount will be in this direction. That means instead of writing it as J into area, I am writing it J dot ds. That will be the small amount of current. So if I write J dot ds, that means it is actually J into ds into cos theta. What is cos theta? Theta is the angle between J and ds. That means if this is direction say J, this is the direction of ds. Ds means area direction. Then this angle between them is theta. So what is J cos theta? J cos theta is the amount of current, that means the amount of current density in the direction of ds. This is the direction ds. So if we want what is the amount of current density, which is in the direction of ds, that is J into cos theta. So J cos theta is the amount of current density in the direction of ds. And what is the direction of ds? Ds means if this is your area, ds is always perpendicular to that area. And that is what we require. That current should be in the direction perpendicular to the area. That means in the direction of ds. So what we are doing here, if J is not in the direction of ds, then also we can extract that amount of J which is in the direction of ds. And what is that amount? J cos theta. So in simple words, we don't say current density is just multiplication of we don't say current is just the multiplication of current density and area. We don't say that current is simply the multiplication of current density and area. Rather, we say current is the dot product of current density and area. Then there will be no problem. Then that condition that current must be flowing in a direction perpendicular to the area is taken into account. So we always say that if ds is a small area through which a current is flowing, whose current density is J, then J dot ds is the small amount of current flowing through that area ds. So if we draw, say this is the conductor and current is flowing in this direction. So this is the direction along which current is flowing, and we only know the current density within this conductor. So what we'll do, we'll first create a small area ds here, and we'll find out what is the amount of current flowing through this small area. And what is the amount of current passing through this small area? We just take J dot ds, dot product of J and ds. We'll just find it out. That is, we'll do J into ds into cos theta. We'll just find it out. So that will be the small amount of current passing through this area. Then what I require? I require the total amount of current passing through this whole area. So what we'll do? We'll integrate it over the whole surface. So we'll integrate it. So if I want the total current, we'll just integrate it over the whole surface. That means it is integration J dot ds. Our Ampere's law, which was written in this way, line integral of B dot dl equals to mu naught I, we can now replace this I in terms of current density J. So we can write it in this way, that I equals to J dot ds over the surfaces. J is the current density and ds is a small area, and total area is S. So now instead of I, we can write this thing. Therefore Ampere's circular law now can be written as this: close integral B dot dl equals to mu naught I, where I is this. So close integral B dot dl equals to mu naught J dot ds over the surfaces. Now you observe both left hand side and right hand side are written in terms of integration. So this is the integral form of Ampere's circular law. So this is our integral form of Ampere's circular. So this is your integral form. Here current is actually given by this whole thing. This is the total current I. Now, for our convenience, we want to write down this form in differential form. That means we want to get rid of this integration now. And we know the trick we have done so far. First thing, what we need to do, we need to observe that whether left hand side and right hand side are the same form. That means whether if the left hand side is surface integral, right hand side should be surface integration. If the left hand side is volume integral, and right hand side will also be volume integral, and so on. So here what you observe? Here you observe that left hand side is in the form of line integration, whereas right hand side is in the surface integration form. So now we need to use one of these two forms. We need to use one of the two theorems, divergence theorem or Stokes theorem. Remember, divergence theorem is used when we want to convert between surface and volume, and Stokes theorem when we want to convert between surface and line. So here we need to use Stokes theorem. So if I use Stokes theorem on the left hand side, then we can write, instead of closed integral b dot dl, it will be curl b dot ds. So that line integration is converted into surface integration. Be careful about dot. So according to Stokes theorem, we can write closed integral b dot dl as curl b dot ds over the surfaces. So now both left hand side and right hand side are in the form of surface integration. So both are in the form of surface integration. So we can take dot ds as common. So curl b minus mu naught j dot ds will be 0. Now the point is, we can say the quantity within bracket is 0. That means curl b equals to mu naught j. That is the differential form of Ampere circular law. Much more simpler. So this is your differential form of Ampere circular law. So depending on the situation, we can use differential form or integral form. So now the point why Ampere's law was required. Ampere's law is used to estimate the magnetic field at any point. Of course, magnitude and direction of the magnetic field at any point when current flowing through the conductor is known. Suppose an infinitely long conductor is there. We want to find out the magnetic field at a distance of 1 centimeter from that conductor. Then we can use Ampere's law. Suppose there is a coil. There is a current passing through a coil. A current passing through a solenoid. Current passing through a toroid. And we want to find out the magnetic field at certain places. Then we can use the Ampere circular law. But can we use Ampere circular law everywhere? That is the first point. That means, is it consistent to the situation? Whatever be the situation, whatever be the condition you apply, Ampere's law should give you same result. Let's check. So this is your differential form of Ampere circular law. Curl b equals to mu naught j. Mu naught is the constant. So our only variables are b and j. Now what you do? We take the divergence on both sides. Okay. Divergence means del dot. So we are taking divergence on both sides. So left hand side will be divergence of curl b, and right hand side will be, this is constant, so I can take it outside. So divergence of j. Divergence of curl of any vector. Divergence of curl of any vector. This is divergence. Divergence. Del dot means divergence. Del cross means curl. Remember? I just told you briefly. So this is divergence. The del dot is divergence. Del cross is curl. So divergence of curl of any vector is always 0. Whatever vector you choose, whatever be its physical significance, if we take curl of that vector and then take divergence of that vector, it is always 0. So if I take a vector, any arbitrary vector, say I am taking a vector A, arbitrary vector, and first thing I take curl of that vector. I take curl of that vector. I can get some another vector, then I take divergence of that vector. So divergence of curl of that vector, that will be always 0. Whatever be that vector. I need not to bother about what type of vector it is, what is the physical meaning of that vector, I need not to bother. Mathematically, divergence of curl of any vector is 0. Therefore, left hand side is always 0. Divergence of curl of magnetic field is always 0. But right hand side, divergence j is not always 0. Divergence j is not always 0. Divergence of j can be 0, of course. It can be 0, but under certain condition, when current is supposed to be steady. When in case of steady current, like whenever you are supplying the current through a constant battery source, current is not varying, current remains constant, steady, then only divergence J is 0. In other cases, when current is varying, suppose you are charging your mobile phone, or when the mobile is not connected with a power supply, then its um, charge is actually discharging, is discharging. In that situation, the current is called transient current. That current is not steady. Current is exponentially increasing or decaying. So in those situations, divergence J is not 0. So divergence J is 0 only under a certain condition. That condition is when current is steady. Otherwise, in all the other cases, divergence J is not 0. So get my point. The point is, if I take divergence of Ampere circular law, that means if I write it in this way, then left hand side is always 0, irrespective of the situation, irrespective of the magnetic field. It is always 0. Whereas divergence J is not always 0. It is 0 only when current is steady. In steady state current, divergence J is 0. Otherwise, it is not. Then how can you say that Ampere's law is valid everywhere? No. That means Ampere's law is valid only for steady state current or only for steady current. When the current is completely uniform, steady, constant, then only you can use Ampere's circular law. In all the other conditions, in all the other cases, you cannot use Ampere's circular law because you observed that in other cases, left hand side will be 0, right hand side will not be 0. That means there must be something missing in Ampere's circular law. There is some inconsistency in Ampere's circular law. That means if you go beyond magnetostatics, where current cannot be always steady, then Ampere's circular law is not valid. So if you are asked, what is the inconsistency in Ampere's circular law? Then you just write down its differential form, take the divergence on both sides, and you will just state that divergence of curl of any vector is 0. That means left hand side is always 0, whereas divergence J is only 0 under steady state condition. Otherwise, it is not. Therefore, there is an inconsistency in Ampere's circular law. And we now need to remove that inconsistency. That means we now want to write down Ampere's circular law in such a form that it will be consistent in all situations.